What is dangerous confidence? Confidence is not arrogance. Confidence is not pretending you know everything. Confidence is not loud, obnoxious behavior designed to mask insecurity. Real confidence, the kind I call dangerous confidence, is something entirely different. It's the quiet certainty that no matter what happens, you'll handle it. It's the ability to walk into any room, face any challenge, and meet any person with the deep-seated knowledge that you belong there and you're capable of dealing with whatever comes next. Dangerous confidence is called dangerous for a specific reason. It's dangerous to your limitations. It's dangerous to the small, scared version of yourself that's been holding you back. It's dangerous to the people who benefit from your self-doubt. It's dangerous to mediocrity, to settling, to living a life smaller than the one you're capable of living. When you become dangerously confident, you become a threat to everything that's been keeping you stuck. This audiobook is not about positive affirmations or fake-it-till-you-make-it platitudes. It's about the real, practical, research-backed strategies that transform insecure, hesitant people into individuals who move through the world with genuine self-assurance. We're going to explore the psychology of confidence, the neuroscience behind self-belief, and most importantly, the specific actions you can take starting today to build unshakable confidence from the ground up. Confidence is not something you're born with. It's not genetic. It's not reserved for the naturally talented or the fortunate few. Confidence is a skill, and like any skill, it can be learned, practiced, and mastered. By the end of this audiobook, you'll understand exactly how to build that skill systematically and permanently. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Understanding the Psychology of Confidence. Before we can build confidence, we need to understand what it actually is and where it comes from. Psychologists define confidence as the belief in one's ability to succeed in specific situations or accomplish tasks. But that definition, while accurate, doesn't capture the full picture of what confidence feels like or how it operates in real life. Confidence exists on a spectrum. At one end, you have complete self-doubt, the paralyzing belief that you're incapable of handling challenges. At the other end, you have delusional overconfidence, the dangerous conviction that you're invincible and can't fail. Dangerous confidence sits in a very specific sweet spot on that spectrum. It's the realistic assessment of your abilities combined with the belief that you can develop whatever skills you currently lack. It's competence plus growth mindset plus the willingness to act despite uncertainty. Psychologist Albert Bandura spent decades researching what he called self-efficacy, which is essentially another term for confidence in specific domains. His research, conducted at Stanford University and published in numerous peer-reviewed journals, identified 4 primary sources of self-efficacy. Understanding these sources is crucial because they give us a roadmap for building confidence systematically. The first source is mastery experiences. This is the most powerful source of confidence. When you successfully complete a task, especially a challenging one, your brain records that success as evidence of your capability. Every time you do something difficult and succeed, you build confidence. Every time you face a fear and survive, you prove to yourself that you're more capable than you thought. This is why confidence can't be built through affirmations alone. You need actual evidence, real experiences of competence to develop genuine self-assurance. The second source is vicarious experiences, which means observing others succeed. When you see someone similar to you accomplish something, it raises your belief that you can do it too. This is why representation matters. This is why mentors are valuable. This is why surrounding yourself with people who are achieving the things you want to achieve is so powerful. Their success becomes evidence that your success is possible. Your brain uses their achievements as a model, a proof of concept that you can apply to your own life. The third source is social persuasion. This is when others express faith in your abilities. Encouragement from people you respect can boost your confidence, while criticism can damage it. However, and this is critical, social persuasion is the weakest of the four sources. Compliments feel good, but they don't build lasting confidence unless they're backed up by actual achievement. This is why confidence built purely on external validation is fragile. It collapses the moment the validation stops. Dangerous confidence doesn't depend on others constantly telling you you're capable. It's built on internal evidence and personal proof. The fourth source is physiological and emotional states. Your physical and emotional condition affects your confidence. When you're well rested, energized, and calm, you feel more capable. When you're exhausted, stressed, or anxious, your confidence plummets. This is why managing your physical state, your sleep, your nutrition, your stress levels is not optional if you want to build lasting confidence. Your body and mind are connected. You can't have a confident mind in a depleted, stressed-out body. Now here's what most people get wrong about confidence. They think it's global, that you're either a confident person or you're not. That's false. Confidence is domain-specific. You can be extremely confident in one area of your life and completely insecure in another. A surgeon might have absolute confidence in the operating room, but be terrified of public speaking. An athlete might dominate on the field, but struggle with social interactions. This is actually good news because it means you don't have to build confidence in every area simultaneously. You can start with one specific domain, build competence and confidence there, and then transfer those skills to other areas. Psychologists also distinguish between state confidence and trait confidence. State confidence is temporary, situation-specific. It's how confident you feel right now, in this moment, facing this particular challenge. Trait confidence is your baseline level of self-assurance across situations and over time. Our goal is to build trait confidence, the deep-seated belief in your general capability that persists even when you're facing something new or difficult. Research from the University of Melbourne and published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology shows that confidence has a reciprocal relationship with action. Confidence leads to action, and action leads to confidence. This creates either a virtuous cycle or a vicious cycle.
When you act confidently, you're more likely to succeed, which builds more confidence, which leads to more action. When you avoid action due to lack of confidence, you deny yourself the experiences that would build confidence, which keeps you stuck in inaction. Breaking this cycle requires forcibly initiating action even when you don't feel confident yet. That's the key insight. You don't wait for confidence to act. You act to build confidence. Another crucial psychological concept is the confidence-competence loop. True confidence comes from competence, from actually being good at something. But here's the paradox. To become competent, you have to practice. And practice requires putting yourself in situations where you're currently not competent. This means genuine confidence building requires accepting temporary incompetence. You have to be willing to be bad at something before you can be good at it. Most people aren't willing to do this. They avoid activities where they might look foolish or fail, which prevents them from ever developing competence, which prevents them from ever developing confidence. Dangerously confident people understand this loop. They're willing to be beginners. They're willing to suck at something temporarily because they know that's the only path to competence and therefore to confidence. They don't protect their ego by avoiding challenges. They build their capability by embracing challenges, even knowing they'll struggle initially. Let's talk about the role of fear in confidence. Fear and confidence are not opposites. You can be both afraid and confident simultaneously. In fact, dangerous confidence often includes fear. The difference is that confident people act despite fear, while unconfident people let fear prevent action. Confidence doesn't mean you're never scared. It means you've developed the ability to function effectively, even when you are scared. Neuroscience research using brain imaging shows that confident individuals have different patterns of brain activation when facing challenges compared to less confident individuals. Specifically, confident individuals show less activation in the amygdala, the brain's fear center, and more activation in the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for rational decision-making and planning. This doesn't mean they don't feel fear. It means their brain has learned to regulate fear more effectively and engage rational thinking even in the presence of threat. Here's the beautiful part. These brain patterns can be changed. Your brain is plastic, meaning it physically restructures itself based on your experiences and behaviors. Every time you act confidently despite fear, you're literally rewiring your brain to make confident action easier in the future. Every time you avoid action due to fear, you're strengthening the neural pathways that make avoidance more likely next time. You are, through your daily choices, either building a confident brain or an anxious brain. Understanding these psychological and neurological foundations is essential because it helps you realize that confidence is not mysterious, it's not magic, it's not something some people have and others don't. It's a predictable outcome of specific mental patterns and behaviors, and that means you can engineer it deliberately. Chapter 2: The Confidence Foundation: Self-Knowledge and Self-Acceptance. You cannot build genuine confidence on a foundation of self-delusion. Dangerous confidence requires brutal honesty about who you are, what you're good at, what you're not good at, and what you value. This might seem counterintuitive. Shouldn't confidence mean thinking you're great at everything? No, that's not confidence. That's narcissism or delusion, and it's fragile. It shatters the moment reality contradicts it. Real confidence comes from accurate self-knowledge combined with self-acceptance. You know your strengths and your weaknesses, and you're okay with both. You don't need to pretend to be something you're not, because you're genuinely comfortable with what you are. This is the paradox of confidence. The more honestly you can assess yourself, including your limitations, the more confident you become. Why? Because you're no longer afraid of being exposed. You're no longer expending energy maintaining a false image. You can focus all your energy on actual growth and achievement. Let's start with self-knowledge. Most people don't actually know themselves very well. They have a vague sense of what they like and don't like, what they're good at and bad at, but they've never done the deep work of genuine self-examination. This lack of self-knowledge creates anxiety because you're constantly worried about being in situations that might reveal your limitations. When you truly know yourself, those situations become much less threatening. Here's a practical exercise. Take inventory of your actual skills and competencies. Not what you wish you were good at, not what you think you should be good at, what you're actually demonstrably competent at right now. Write them down. Be specific. I'm good at analyzing data and finding patterns. I'm skilled at making people comfortable in conversations. I can organize complex projects into manageable steps. Don't be modest, but don't inflate either. Just be accurate. Now do the same for your weaknesses and limitations. This is harder because we're taught to hide our weaknesses. But acknowledging them doesn't make you weak. It makes you realistic, and realism is the foundation of genuine confidence. I struggle with public speaking. I'm not good at technical subjects. I have difficulty saying no to people. Write them down, honestly. Here's what happens when you do this exercise thoroughly. First, you usually discover you have more strengths than you realized. Your brain has a negativity bias, meaning it focuses more on your failures and weaknesses than your successes and strengths. Deliberately cataloging your competencies counters that bias. Second, you realize that your weaknesses, while real, are specific and limited. You're not globally incompetent. You're just not good at certain specific things, and that's fine. Nobody's good at everything.
The next level of self-knowledge is understanding your values. What actually matters to you? Not what you think should matter, not what society says should matter, but what genuinely matters to you personally. Your values are your internal compass. They tell you what direction to move in, what goals to pursue, what behaviors align with who you want to be. When your actions align with your values, you feel confident because you're being authentic. When your actions contradict your values, you feel uncertain and uncomfortable because you're betraying yourself. Most people never explicitly identify their values. They drift through life reacting to external pressures and expectations without ever asking themselves what they actually stand for. This creates a deep unease that undermines confidence. You can't feel truly confident when you're not sure who you are or what you believe in. Here's another exercise. List the 5 most important values in your life. Not aspirational values, actual values that you'd defend even if it cost you. Examples might be honesty, family, achievement, creativity, security, freedom, justice, loyalty, growth, whatever matters most to you. Then ask yourself, are your current actions and decisions aligned with these values? If not, that misalignment is creating internal conflict that's damaging your confidence.
Now let's talk about self-acceptance. This is different from self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is understanding who you are. Self-acceptance is being okay with who you are. Many people achieve self-knowledge but then reject what they find. They see their limitations and feel ashamed. They notice their quirks and try to suppress them. They compare themselves to others and feel inadequate. This self-rejection is absolutely poisonous to confidence. Self-acceptance doesn't mean you don't want to grow or improve. It means you accept your current starting point without shame. You acknowledge where you are right now without beating yourself up about it. Think of it this way. A skilled craftsman doesn't hate a piece of rough wood. He sees its current state accurately and then goes to work shaping it into something beautiful. He accepts the material as it is while working to transform it. That's the attitude you need toward yourself. Research in clinical psychology, particularly in the field of acceptance and commitment therapy, shows that self-acceptance is more strongly correlated with psychological well-being than self-esteem. Self-esteem is your evaluation of your worth. It goes up and down based on your achievements and failures. Self-acceptance is unconditional. It's not based on performance. It's the recognition that you're acceptable as a human being, regardless of your achievements or failures. This creates a stable foundation for confidence that doesn't collapse when you experience setbacks. Here's a powerful reframe that can help with self-acceptance. You are not a finished product. You're a work in progress, and you always will be. Every limitation you currently have is temporary if you choose to work on it. Every weakness is just a skill you haven't developed yet. This growth mindset, a concept extensively researched by psychologist Carol Dweck at Stanford University, is essential for confidence. When you believe your abilities are fixed, every failure becomes evidence that you're inherently inadequate. When you believe your abilities can be developed, every failure becomes information about what you need to work on. Self-acceptance also requires letting go of the need for universal approval. This is huge. Many people sabotage their own confidence by trying to be likable to everyone. Here's the truth. You cannot be confident and universally liked simultaneously. Confidence requires having opinions, making decisions, setting boundaries, and sometimes disappointing people. If you need everyone to like you, you'll constantly contort yourself to meet others' expectations, and that's the opposite of confidence. Dangerously confident people are comfortable with the fact that not everyone will like them. They're not trying to be offensive or disagreeable, but they're also not willing to betray themselves to win approval. They understand that respect is more valuable than being liked, and respect comes from having standards and standing for something, even if that something isn't universally popular.
Another component of self-acceptance is making peace with your past. Many people carry shame about past mistakes, past failures, or past trauma. This shame becomes an anchor that prevents forward movement. You cannot build confidence while constantly looking backward with regret. The past happened. You can't change it. What you can change is what it means and what you do with it. Every successful person has failures in their past. Every confident person has experienced rejection, embarrassment, and defeat. The difference is they've processed those experiences, extracted the lessons, and moved forward without letting those experiences define them. Your past is data, not destiny. It informs your future, but doesn't determine it. Here's a practice that helps with this. Write down your biggest failures or most shameful experiences. Then, for each one, write down what you learned from it and how it made you stronger or wiser. Reframe your failures from evidence of your inadequacy to evidence of your willingness to try difficult things. Every failure is proof that you attempted something challenging. That's actually admirable, not shameful. Self-knowledge and self-acceptance create what psychologists call psychological flexibility. This is the ability to be present with yourself as you are, to acknowledge difficult thoughts and feelings without being controlled by them, and to pursue actions aligned with your values, even when it's uncomfortable. Psychological flexibility is strongly correlated with mental health and with confidence. When you have it, you're not fragile. You can handle criticism, setbacks, and challenges without falling apart because your sense of self isn't dependent on everything going perfectly. Building this foundation takes time and honest self-reflection. It's not flashy. It doesn't feel as exciting as learning specific confidence techniques or behaviors. But without this foundation, confidence becomes almost inevitable because you're building on solid ground.
Chapter 3. Competence, the non-negotiable source of confidence. Let's be direct about something most self-help gurus don't want to tell you. You cannot have lasting confidence without competence. You can fake confidence temporarily. You can psych yourself up with affirmations. You can adopt confident body language. But none of that will sustain you when you're actually faced with challenges that exceed your abilities. Real confidence, the kind that doesn't crumble under pressure, comes from the knowledge that you can actually do the thing you're being asked to do. This is why the core strategy for building confidence is simple. Get good at things. Develop real skills. Become genuinely competent. There is no shortcut around this. Every person you know who radiates confidence has earned that confidence through accumulated competence in areas that matter to them. They're not faking it. They genuinely know they're capable because they have a history of being capable. The question is, how do you build competence systematically? Because competence doesn't happen by accident. It's the result of deliberate practice applied consistently over time. First, let's understand what competence actually is. Competence is the ability to perform a task or set of tasks effectively and efficiently. It's skill plus knowledge plus experience. You can't be competent at something you've never done. You can't be competent at something you've only done once or twice. Competence requires repetition, feedback, and progressive challenge. This is why there's no way around putting in time and effort if you want to build genuine confidence. The research on skill acquisition, particularly the work of psychologist Anders Ericsson on deliberate practice, gives us a clear roadmap. Competence develops through focused practice that pushes you slightly beyond your current ability level, not so far beyond that you're overwhelmed and fail constantly, but far enough that you're challenged and have to stretch. This sweet spot is called the learning zone, and spending time there is how skills develop. Most people never reach high levels of competence because they don't practice deliberately. They practice casually. They repeat what they're already comfortable with instead of pushing into discomfort. They practice without feedback, so they never know what they're doing wrong. They practice without focus, going through the motions instead of concentrating on improvement.
This creates the illusion of practice without the reality of progress. Here's how to practice deliberately and build competence efficiently. First, identify the specific skill you want to develop. Be precise. I want to be more confident is too vague. I want to be competent at giving presentations to groups of 20 or more is specific and actionable. Specificity allows you to design targeted practice. Second, break the skill down into component parts. Complex skills are made up of simpler sub-skills. Public speaking, for example, includes organizing your thoughts coherently, projecting your voice clearly, managing nervous energy, reading audience reactions, handling questions, using visual aids effectively, and numerous other components. You can improve each component separately, and improvement in the parts leads to improvement in the whole. Third, practice each component with focused attention. Don't just give presentations and hope you get better. Practice specific elements. Record yourself and watch it back, painful as that is, to identify exactly what needs work. Get feedback from people who are better than you. Study people who are excellent at the skill and analyze what they're doing differently. This analytical approach to practice accelerates competence development dramatically. Fourth, seek progressive challenge. Once you can do something comfortably, increase the difficulty. If you can speak confidently to 5 people, try 10, then 20, then 50. Each increase in difficulty forces you to develop your capability further. Staying in your comfort zone maintains your current skill level, but doesn't improve it. Growth happens at the edge of your ability. Fifth, build volume. There's simply no replacement for repetition. You need to do something many times to become genuinely good at it. Malcolm Gladwell popularized the idea that 10,000 hours of practice creates mastery. That specific number has been debated, and it varies for skill, but the principle is sound. Significant competence requires significant practice time. You can't become confident at something you've barely done. Here's where most people get stuck. They want the confidence without the competence. They want to feel capable without putting in the work to become capable. That's not how it works. The universe doesn't care about your feelings. It cares about your abilities. If you can't actually do the thing, no amount of positive thinking will help you when you're required to perform. But here's the good news. You don't need to be the best in the world to be confident. You need to be competent enough to handle the situations you regularly face. If you're giving presentations to your team of 15 people, you don't need to be Tony Robbins. You just need to be good enough that you can deliver information clearly and handle basic questions. That level of competence is absolutely achievable with focused practice. Let's talk about the relationship between competence and imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is the feeling that you're not as competent as people think you are, that you're faking it, and eventually you'll be exposed as a fraud. It's extremely common, especially for high achievers. Here's the thing. Imposter syndrome is often a mismatch between your internal experience and your external competence. You feel like an imposter because you know how much you don't know. You're aware of your limitations, your uncertainties, your learning process. But from the outside, people only see your actual performance, which may be quite good. The solution isn't to inflate your self-perception to match others' perceptions. The solution is to acknowledge that competence doesn't feel the way you think it should. Competent people still feel uncertain sometimes. They still face challenges. They're just better at handling those challenges.
Imposter syndrome also often indicates that you're in a growth phase. If you're attempting things at the edge of your ability, you will feel somewhat out of your depth. That's normal. That's healthy. That's what growth feels like. The danger is when imposter syndrome prevents you from attempting things or causes you to overwork to compensate for perceived inadequacy. Acknowledge the feeling, recognize it as a natural part of growth, and act anyway. Now, let's address a critical distinction: competence versus perfectionism. Perfectionism is not high standards. Perfectionism is the belief that your worth depends on flawless performance, and it's absolutely toxic to confidence. Perfectionists are never satisfied with their competence because there's always something that could be better. They experience their achievements as relieving rather than satisfying, because achievement just means they avoided failure temporarily. Competence, on the other hand, is about being good enough to achieve your goals effectively. It acknowledges that mastery is a journey without end, that there's always more to learn, but that you can be confident in your current level of skill while simultaneously working to improve. Confident people have high standards, but they also have realistic expectations of themselves and the ability to feel satisfaction in their progress. If you struggle with perfectionism, here's a reframe that helps. Instead of asking, "Is this perfect?" ask, "Is this effective for my current purpose?" Perfectionism focuses on an impossible standard. Effectiveness focuses on actual results. You can deliver an effective presentation that has minor flaws. Those flaws don't negate the effectiveness. Accepting this allows you to build confidence based on actual performance rather than impossible ideals. Another key insight: competence in one domain can transfer partially to other domains. The confidence you build becoming skilled at one thing makes it easier to build confidence in other areas, because you've proven to yourself that you can develop competence when you commit to it. You've learned how to learn. You've demonstrated that you can improve through effort. This meta-skill, the skill of skill building, is one of the most valuable things you can develop. This is why I recommend starting with something specific and achievable rather than trying to become confident in general. Pick one area that matters to you. Maybe it's fitness, maybe it's public speaking, maybe it's a technical skill related to your career. Commit to building genuine competence in that one area. Put in the deliberate practice, accept the temporary discomfort of being a beginner. Persist through the plateau phases where progress feels slow. Eventually, you'll develop real skill, and with that skill comes real confidence. Then, and this is key, you take the lessons from that process and apply them to the next area. You realize, I felt incompetent at the beginning. I practiced deliberately, I improved, and now I'm confident. The same process works for anything. That recognition is powerful because it means confidence is no longer mysterious. It's a predictable outcome of following a specific process. Let me be very clear about something. The work of building competence is not optional if you want genuine confidence. There is no hack. There is no secret technique that bypasses the need for actual skill development. Any approach to confidence that doesn't include becoming genuinely good at things is selling you a temporary illusion. It will fail when tested by reality. But the work, while not optional, is also not as hard as you think. Here's why. You only need to be better than you currently are, not better than everyone else. And you only need to focus on skills that matter for your specific goals, not every possible skill. This makes the task manageable. You're not trying to become competent at everything. You're strategically developing competence in areas that align with your values and goals. Choose your competencies wisely. Build them deliberately. Practice with focus and consistency. Accept that mastery takes time. As your competence grows, your confidence will grow naturally as a byproduct. You won't have to fake it or force it. It will emerge organically from the real knowledge that you can handle what you're facing because you've handled it successfully before. Chapter 4. The Physical Foundation of Confidence. Here's something that will sound superficial until you understand the science behind it. Your physical state has a massive impact on your confidence. How you stand, how you breathe, how you move, how much sleep you get, what you eat, how much you exercise. All of these physical factors directly affect your brain's ability to generate feelings of confidence and capability. This isn't about looking good, though that can be a side effect. This is about the fundamental connection between your body and your mind. They're not separate systems. They're one integrated system, and you cannot optimize your mental state while neglecting your physical state. Let's start with posture and body language, areas that have received significant research attention. Social psychologist Amy Cuddy popularized the concept of power posing, the idea that adopting expansive, open postures can actually increase feelings of confidence and power. While some of her original claims were overstated and later research has nuanced the findings, the basic principle holds. Your physical posture affects your mental state. The mechanism works through several pathways. First, proprioception, the sense of your body's position in space, sends signals to your brain about your current state. When you slump, hunch your shoulders, and make yourself small, your brain interprets these signals as indicating defeat, submission, or weakness. Your emotional state shifts to match. When you stand tall, pull your shoulders back, and take up space confidently, your brain interprets these signals as indicating confidence and capability. Your emotional state shifts to match. Second, posture affects breathing. Collapsed posture compresses your diaphragm and restricts breathing. Restricted breathing reduces oxygen flow to your brain and can trigger anxiety responses. Open, upright posture allows full, deep breathing. Better oxygen flow supports clearer thinking and calmer emotional states. This is why you feel more capable standing straight than hunched over. Third, there's a feedback loop between facial expressions and emotions. Research shows that forcing yourself to smile, even artificially, can actually improve your mood slightly. The same principle applies to confident body language. Adopting confident postures, even when you don't feel confident, can nudge your emotional state in a more confident direction. This doesn't replace genuine competence, but it can give you a boost when you need one.
Here's a practical application. Before entering a high-stakes situation, a presentation, an interview, a difficult conversation, spend 2 minutes in a confident posture. Stand with feet shoulder-width apart, shoulders back, chin up, hands on hips, or arms raised in a victory pose. Breathe deeply. This physical preparation primes your brain for confident performance. Athletes do this instinctively before competition. You can do it before any challenge. Now let's talk about breathing. Most people breathe poorly, especially when stressed. Shallow, rapid chest breathing is a stress response. It's your body preparing for danger. The problem is, your brain can't distinguish between real physical danger and psychological stress. When you breathe shallowly in response to a stressful presentation or conversation, your brain interprets that as a danger signal and increases your anxiety, which makes you breathe more shallowly, which increases anxiety further. It's a vicious cycle. Breaking this cycle requires conscious breathing control. Deep, slow diaphragmatic breathing, breathing from your belly rather than your chest, signals safety to your brain. It activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system that calms you down. Specifically, breathing with longer exhales than inhales is particularly effective. Try this. Breathe in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 6. Repeat several times. Notice how your body begins to relax. This isn't New Age nonsense. This is applied physiology. Your autonomic nervous system, which controls your stress and relaxation responses, is partially under voluntary control through breathing. You can literally regulate your emotional state by regulating your breath. Navy SEALs use box breathing, a similar technique, to maintain composure in life-threatening situations. If it works for them, it can work for you in everyday stressful situations. Sleep is another non-negotiable physical foundation for confidence. When you're sleep-deprived, your prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for executive function, rational thinking, and emotional regulation, doesn't work properly. Your amygdala, the fear center, becomes hyperactive. This means you perceive threats more readily, regulate emotions less effectively, and think less clearly. All of these factors destroy confidence.
Research consistently shows that even one night of poor sleep significantly impairs performance and emotional regulation. Chronic sleep deprivation, which most adults experience, creates a state of ongoing impairment. You're trying to build confidence with a handicapped brain. It's like trying to win a race with a flat tire. The solution is straightforward but not easy. Prioritize sleep. Most adults need 7 to 9 hours per night, not 5, not 6, 7 to 9, and it needs to be consistent. Your brain and body need regular sleep schedules to function optimally. If you're trying to become more confident while sleeping 5 hours a night, you're fighting yourself. Fix your sleep first. Everything else becomes easier. Physical fitness also affects confidence in multiple ways. First, exercise directly improves brain function. It increases blood flow to the brain, promotes neurogenesis, the growth of new brain cells, and enhances neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new connections. All of these effects support learning, mood regulation, and stress management. Regular exercise literally makes your brain work better, which makes confidence easier to develop and maintain. Second, exercise provides mastery experiences. When you set a fitness goal, work toward it consistently, and achieve it, you prove to yourself that you're capable of difficult things. That proof transfers to other areas. If you can run a marathon, which requires months of consistent training, discipline, and discomfort, your brain registers that as evidence of your general capability. You can draw on that evidence when facing other challenges. Third, fitness improves your physical appearance, and while this shouldn't be the primary reason for exercising, it does matter for confidence. We live in a visual society. How you look affects how people treat you, which affects your opportunities and experiences, which affects your confidence. Additionally, when you feel strong, capable, and healthy in your body, you tend to feel more capable generally. There's a psychological boost from knowing your body is functioning well. You don't need to become a professional athlete. You just need regular physical activity that challenges you and keeps you reasonably fit. Find something you can sustain. The best exercise is the one you'll actually do consistently. Whether that's weight training, running, swimming, martial arts, dance, or anything else, doesn't matter as much as consistency. Nutrition is another physical factor that most people underestimate. Your brain is an organ, and like all organs, it needs proper fuel to function well. When you eat poorly, processed foods, excessive sugar, inadequate protein, your brain doesn't have the nutrients it needs for optimal performance. You'll experience energy crashes, mood swings, and difficulty concentrating. All of these impair confidence. The specifics of optimal nutrition are beyond the scope of this audiobook, but the basics are simple. Eat mostly whole foods, adequate protein, healthy fats, lots of vegetables, moderate carbohydrates, and stay hydrated. Avoid excessive sugar and processed foods. Your brain will function better, which means you'll think more clearly, regulate emotions more effectively, and maintain energy more consistently. All of these support confidence. There's also the issue of stimulants and depressants. Caffeine can be useful in moderation, but excessive caffeine creates jitteriness and anxiety that undermine confidence. Alcohol is a depressant that impairs brain function and decision-making. If you're using these substances to cope with stress or to feel confident, you're creating a dependence that will eventually backfire. Genuine confidence doesn't require chemical assistance. Let's talk about physical appearance separately from fitness. How you present yourself matters. This doesn't mean you need to be conventionally attractive or spend hours on grooming. It means you should present yourself in a way that signals that you care about yourself and take yourself seriously. When you dress sloppily or neglect basic hygiene, you signal to yourself and others that you're not worth effort. That signal undermines confidence.
When you're dressed appropriately and well-groomed for your context, you don't have to think about your appearance. It's handled. That mental space can be used for actually performing well, rather than worrying about how you look. But when you know you're underdressed or poorly presented, a part of your mental energy is constantly monitoring for others' judgments. That drain reduces your available cognitive resources and undermines performance. There's a concept in psychology called enclothed cognition, the idea that what you wear affects your psychological state. Research shows that people perform differently based on what they're wearing. When participants wore a lab coat they believed belonged to a doctor, they performed better on attention tasks than when they wore street clothes. The clothing literally changed their mental state. You can use this principle deliberately. Dress in a way that makes you feel capable and professional for important situations. Notice how different outfits make you feel different ways. Choose clothing that supports the mental state you want to cultivate. This isn't superficial, it's strategic use of psychology to optimize your performance. Physical health also includes managing chronic pain, illness, or disability. If you're dealing with physical issues that affect your daily function, addressing them isn't optional for confidence. Pain and illness consume cognitive resources and emotional energy. They make everything harder. Seeking proper medical treatment, managing conditions effectively, and adapting your life to work with your physical reality rather than against it are all part of building a foundation for confidence. For those with disabilities or chronic conditions, confidence comes partly from learning to navigate the world effectively despite limitations. This often requires creative problem-solving, self-advocacy, and rejecting others' low expectations. The confidence that develops from successfully handling these challenges can be profound because it's earned under difficult circumstances. Let's address substance use directly. Using alcohol, drugs, or other substances to feel confident in social situations or to cope with anxiety creates fake confidence that disappears when the substance wears off. Worse, it prevents you from developing real confidence because you never give yourself the opportunity to handle situations sober. If you need to be intoxicated to feel capable, you're not developing capability. You're masking incapability temporarily. This doesn't mean you can never have a drink or need to be completely abstinent. It means don't use substances as confidence crutches. If you notice you can only do certain things when you're drinking or using something else, that's a signal that you need to develop genuine confidence in those situations while sober. The discomfort of facing them sober is temporary. The confidence you'll build from doing so is permanent. Physical practices can also include things like martial arts or self-defense training. There's something uniquely confidence-building about knowing you can physically defend yourself if necessary. This isn't about being aggressive or looking for fights. It's about the deep sense of security that comes from knowing your body is capable in high-stress physical situations. Many people report that martial arts training transformed their overall confidence because it forced them to face fear, develop competence under pressure, and overcome the instinct to flee from difficulty. Even if full martial arts training isn't accessible or interesting to you, basic self-defense knowledge can provide psychological benefits. It's one less thing to be afraid of. You know that if you were physically threatened, you'd have some tools to respond. That knowledge provides a foundation of security that supports confidence in other areas. The physical foundation of confidence isn't glamorous. It's basic self-care. Sleep enough, move your body, eat reasonably well, maintain your physical health, present yourself appropriately. These things sound simple, even boring, but they're not optional. You cannot sustainably build psychological confidence on a foundation of physical neglect. Your body and mind are one system. Optimize the whole system. Chapter 5. Social Confidence, the Art of Human Connection. Much of our anxiety and lack of confidence centers on social situations, talking to strangers, meeting new people, public speaking, job interviews, dating, social gatherings. These situations trigger fear and self-doubt in most people because they involve judgment, rejection, and uncertainty. Building social confidence is therefore one of the highest leverage areas to work on. Let's start with a fundamental reframe.
Most people approach social situations worried about how they're being perceived. Am I making a good impression? Do they like me? Am I saying something stupid? This self-focused approach guarantees anxiety because you're essentially performing for an audience whose judgment you can't control. The more you try to manage their perception, the more self-conscious and awkward you become. The confidence shift is from self-focus to other focus. Instead of worrying about how you're coming across, focus genuinely on the other person. Be curious about them. Listen to understand rather than to respond. Ask questions that show interest. When you're genuinely focused on understanding someone else, you don't have spare mental capacity to worry about yourself. This both reduces anxiety and, ironically, makes you more likable because people enjoy talking to someone who's genuinely interested in them. This principle is backed by extensive research in social psychology. People who are other-focused in conversations are consistently rated as more likable and more confident than people who talk primarily about themselves or who are visibly self-conscious. The paradox is that the way to make a good impression is to stop trying to make a good impression and focus on the other person instead. Here's a practical technique for social situations. Before entering a conversation or social event, set an intention. I'm going to learn 3 interesting things about the people I talk to. This simple goal shifts your focus from performance to curiosity. You're not there to impress anyone, you're there to learn about them. This makes the situation less threatening and gives you a clear objective beyond just be confident.
Another key principle: confidence in social situations comes from having reasonable expectations. Many people expect social interactions to flow smoothly, feel comfortable, and result in everyone liking them. These are unreasonable expectations. Social interactions are often awkward. There are uncomfortable pauses. Not everyone will like you regardless of how well you perform. Accepting this reality reduces pressure. Socially confident people understand that awkwardness is normal and doesn't mean anything is wrong. When there's a pause in conversation, they don't panic. They're comfortable with a moment of silence. When someone doesn't seem interested in them, they don't take it personally. They recognize that compatibility is specific and not everyone clicks. This acceptance of social reality as inherently imperfect makes social situations much less threatening. Let's talk about specific skills that build social confidence. First, basic conversation skills. Many people struggle socially not because they're fundamentally unlikable, but because they never learned basic conversation techniques. Conversations have structure, they're not random. Understanding the structure makes them manageable. A basic conversation pattern: opening, establishing common ground, exploring topics of mutual interest, closing. The opening is often simple pleasantries and introduction. Hi, I'm name. How do you know? Host. Or what brings you here today? These are not profound questions. They're just conversation starters that allow the interaction to begin. Establishing common ground involves finding shared context. You're both at the same event, you work in related fields, you're from the same area, you have mutual friends. Finding any point of connection gives you something to talk about and creates a foundation of familiarity. Oh, you work in marketing too. What kind of campaigns do you usually work on? Exploring topics means asking open-ended questions and sharing your own relevant experiences. This is where conversations deepen beyond surface pleasantries. The key is balance. If you only ask questions, you're interviewing them. If you only talk about yourself, you're monologuing. The back-and-forth exchange where both parties share and ask creates engagement. Closing is often neglected but important. Don't let conversations die awkwardly. When natural endpoints emerge, acknowledge them. I should probably circulate, but it was really interesting talking to you about topic. Maybe I'll see you around later. This is clean, friendly, and leaves a positive impression. Public speaking deserves special attention because it's one of the most common fears. The fear makes sense evolutionarily.
Being watched by a group while potentially being judged triggers ancient social threat responses. Your brain interprets the attention as potential danger. Understanding this helps because you realize the fear is normal, not evidence that something is wrong with you. Confidence in public speaking comes from three sources: preparation, practice, and reframing. Preparation means knowing your material thoroughly. You should know your content well enough that you could discuss it conversationally without notes. This doesn't mean memorizing a script word for word, which usually sounds stiff. It means understanding your key points and supporting examples so well that you can present them flexibly. Practice means actually rehearsing, not just reviewing your slides in your head. Physically standing up, speaking out loud, ideally recording yourself, or practicing in front of others. Each full rehearsal builds neural pathways that make the actual performance easier. Your brain and body get used to speaking on this topic in this way. The first time you present new material, you'll be somewhat uncertain. The 10th time, you'll be much more confident because you've done it before. Reframing means changing how you think about the situation. Instead of, "I have to give a speech and people will judge me," try, "I get to share information I know with people who want to learn it." Instead of the audience being threats, they're people who will benefit from what you're offering. You're not performing for judgment, you're teaching or sharing. This reframe reduces threat perception significantly. Another public speaking technique: focus on delivering value rather than performing perfectly. Your goal is not to give a flawless speech. Your goal is to communicate information effectively. If you stumble over a word or lose your place briefly, it doesn't matter as long as your overall message comes across. Audiences are generally forgiving of minor mistakes. What they can't forgive is a speaker who clearly doesn't know their material or doesn't care about delivering value. Small talk, often dismissed as superficial, is actually an important social skill. It serves as a low-stakes way to assess compatibility and build rapport before investing in deeper conversation. Being able to chat comfortably about weather, sports, current events, or other light topics puts people at ease and creates opportunities for connection. The key to small talk is not treating it as meaningless, but seeing it as a social bridge. You're not trying to have deep philosophical conversations with everyone you meet. You're simply establishing friendly contact. Some of those contacts will develop into meaningful connections. Most won't, and that's fine. Small talk is the sorting mechanism. Assertiveness, the ability to express your thoughts, feelings, and needs clearly and respectfully, is central to social confidence. Many people confuse assertiveness with aggression. Aggression is expressing yourself while disregarding others' rights and feelings. Passivity is failing to express yourself and allowing others to violate your boundaries. Assertiveness is the balance, expressing yourself while respecting others.
Assertive communication follows a pattern: stating your perspective clearly, acknowledging the other person's perspective, and proposing a solution or making a request. "I understand you need this report by Friday. I'm concerned I won't be able to maintain quality with that timeline. Could we either adjust the deadline to Monday or reduce the scope?" This communicates your needs without attacking the other person. Many people struggle with saying no. They agree to things they don't want to do, take on commitments they don't have time for, or tolerate behavior they find unacceptable. This happens because they fear conflict, rejection, or being seen as difficult. But chronic inability to say no creates resentment, exhaustion, and a sense of helplessness that destroys confidence. Learning to say no is essential for confidence. It establishes that you have boundaries and that you take your own needs seriously. It doesn't require elaborate justification. "No, I won't be able to do that" is a complete sentence. You can add a brief reason if you choose, but you don't owe detailed explanations for your decisions about your own time and energy. Here's a key insight. Confident people care less about being liked and more about being respected.
They're pleasant and friendly, but they don't contort themselves to avoid all disagreement or conflict. They state their opinions, even when unpopular. They set boundaries, even when it disappoints others. They do this not from arrogance, but from self-respect. They value their own time, energy, and values enough to protect them. This doesn't mean being deliberately offensive or combative. It means being willing to prioritize your integrity over universal approval. When you know that your worth doesn't depend on everyone liking you, social situations become much less threatening. You're free to be authentic, which paradoxically often makes you more likable to the people who matter. Social confidence also requires developing thick skin. You will be criticized. You will be rejected. People will dislike you for reasons that have nothing to do with you. Confident people don't let this destroy them because they don't tie their self-worth to every social outcome. They recognize that human relationships are complex, that people project their own issues onto others, and that some level of social friction is inevitable when you're living authentically. The way to develop thick skin is gradual exposure to social risk. Start with small acts of assertion or self-expression. Share an unpopular opinion in a low-stakes context. Say no to a small request. Introduce yourself to a stranger in line at coffee shops. Join groups or activities that involve social interaction. Each interaction, even awkward ones, is data that recalibrates your brain's assessment of social threat. Over time, with sufficient volume of interaction, social confidence develops naturally. You realize that most social interactions are fine. Even the awkward ones aren't catastrophic. People are generally focused on themselves, not judging you as harshly as you fear. And the social risks you take sometimes result in meaningful connections that enrich your life. The confidence comes not from never feeling anxious, but from learning to act effectively despite occasional anxiety. Chapter 6. Professional Confidence. Mastering Your Career Domain. Professional confidence, the ability to navigate workplace challenges and career advancement with self-assurance, is often where confidence issues most directly impact your life outcomes. Your career affects your income, your opportunities, your sense of purpose, and your daily experience. Lack of professional confidence keeps people stuck in jobs they hate, prevents them from advocating for fair compensation, and stops them from pursuing opportunities they're qualified for. Let's start with a hard truth. Professional confidence comes primarily from professional competence. You cannot have sustainable career confidence if you're not actually good at your job. No amount of psychological techniques will compensate for fundamental skill deficits. The first step in building professional confidence is ensuring you're genuinely competent in your role. If you're not, your priority is developing that competence through focused learning and practice. Assuming you are competent or working toward it, the next challenge is making your competence visible. Many people do excellent work that goes unrecognized because they don't communicate their value effectively. They assume good work will speak for itself. It won't. In most organizations, you must actively demonstrate your contributions while still being a team player. This isn't about bragging, it's about clear communication. Documentation is powerful. Keep records of your achievements, projects you've completed, problems you've solved, and value you've delivered. When review time comes or opportunities arise, you have concrete evidence to point to rather than vague claims. I improved customer satisfaction scores by 15% through implementing a new feedback system is much stronger than I'm good at customer service. Professional confidence also requires understanding organizational dynamics. Every workplace has formal structures, official roles and reporting lines, and informal structures, relationships, influence networks, and unwritten rules. Navigating both successfully requires social intelligence and political awareness. This doesn't mean being manipulative. It means understanding how your organization actually works and positioning yourself effectively within that system. One crucial professional skill is managing up, knowing how to work effectively with your boss or supervisor. Many people approach this wrong. They either try to avoid their boss as much as possible, or they suck up in obvious ways. Neither builds respect or confidence. Effective managing up means making your boss's job easier while advancing your own goals simultaneously.
This means understanding what your boss cares about, what they're measured on, what pressures they face. Then, position your work and requests in terms of how they help address those priorities. Don't just ask for resources or opportunities. Explain how what you're requesting will help achieve organizational goals or solve problems your boss cares about. This makes you an asset rather than a burden. Another aspect of professional confidence is setting appropriate boundaries. Many people, especially early in their careers, say yes to everything out of fear of seeming difficult or uncommitted. This creates several problems. You get overloaded, quality suffers, you never develop time for strategic thinking or skill development, and you train others to take advantage of your inability to say no. Confident professionals understand their value and protect their time accordingly. They don't do others' work for them unless there's a strategic reason. They negotiate deadlines and scope when necessary. They push back professionally on unreasonable demands. They say things like, "I'd be happy to take that on, but I'm currently working on X, Y, and Z. Which of those should take lower priority?" This communicates both capability and boundaries. Career advancement often requires active self-promotion, which many people find uncomfortable. There's a cultural script that good work should be noticed automatically and that talking about your achievements is conceited. This script keeps people stuck. If you want to advance, you need to make your contributions visible to decision-makers. Self-promotion doesn't mean constantly bragging. It means updating stakeholders on your work, sharing successes in team meetings, contributing valuable insights in visible forums, and ensuring that people who matter know what you're accomplishing. Frame it as information sharing, not boasting. "I wanted to update you on the project results. We exceeded our targets by 20%, and the client has already asked about expanding the engagement." This is communicating value, not arrogance. Networking, which many people dread, is essential for professional confidence and career success. Most opportunities come through connections, not applications. When you know people in your field, when you have relationships with professionals doing interesting work, when you are connected to decision-makers and influencers, you have access to opportunities others never see. Building a network isn't about collecting business cards or connecting with strangers on LinkedIn. It's about developing genuine professional relationships. The way to do this is by offering value first. Help people. Make introductions. Share useful information or resources. Be genuinely interested in others' work. Relationships built on mutual value and genuine connection are the ones that lead to opportunities. Professional confidence also means developing career strategy rather than just reacting to whatever comes your way. Confident professionals know where they want to go, even if the exact path isn't clear. They make deliberate decisions about what skills to develop, what experiences to seek, and what opportunities to pursue. They're not just working hard, they're working strategically towards specific career objectives. This requires regular reflection and planning. Where do you want to be in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years? What skills or experiences would you need to get there? What's currently missing? What opportunities should you pursue or create? This doesn't need to be a rigid plan. Your goals will evolve, but having direction, even if it shifts, is far more effective than drifting without purpose. Let's address imposter syndrome in professional contexts specifically. High achievers often experience intense imposter syndrome, despite objective success. They feel like frauds who don't deserve their positions and fear being exposed. This is especially common among people from underrepresented backgrounds in their fields or people who've advanced quickly.
The reality is that almost everyone feels some version of imposter syndrome at points in their career. The key is not to wait for it to disappear before acting. Confident professionals feel imposter syndrome and proceed anyway. They acknowledge the feeling, recognize it as a common experience, and focus on continuing to deliver value, regardless of how they feel internally. One specific technique: separate your internal experience from your external performance. Internally, you might feel uncertain and worried. That's fine. Externally, you can still deliver competent work and communicate confidently. Your internal state doesn't have to match your external presentation. In fact, they rarely do, even for very confident people. Professional confidence is also about handling failure and setbacks effectively. You will make mistakes. Projects will fail. You'll make poor decisions. Everyone does. The difference between confident and unconfident professionals is not that confident people fail less, it's that they recover faster and extract more learning. When something goes wrong, confident professionals do several things. They acknowledge the problem directly without making excuses. They take responsibility for their part without accepting blame for things outside their control. They propose solutions or next steps. They reflect on what went wrong and what they do differently. Then they move forward without dwelling excessively on the failure. This recovery process is actually a confidence-building opportunity. Each time you handle a setback professionally and recover, you prove to yourself that failures aren't catastrophic. Your brain learns that you can survive professional difficulty. This makes future challenges less threatening because you know you've handled similar situations before. Public presentation of your work is often career critical. Whether it's client presentations, internal reports, conference talks, or simply explaining your work to stakeholders, your ability to communicate your expertise affects how you're perceived. Many people sabotage their professional credibility through poor presentation skills, not because their work is bad, but because they can't communicate its value effectively.
Developing presentation skills requires practice. Take every opportunity to present your work. Volunteer for presentations. Practice explaining complex topics simply. Get feedback on your communication style. Watch skilled presenters and analyze what makes them effective. This is a high-leverage skill because it amplifies everything else you do. If you're excellent at your work but can't communicate that excellence, you'll be passed over for people who are less skilled but better at showcasing their value. Professional confidence also includes financial confidence. Many people undervalue their work and accept lower compensation than they're worth because they're uncomfortable negotiating. This is especially common among women and people from cultures that emphasize modesty. But accepting unfair compensation doesn't make you humble. It makes you resentful and financially disadvantaged. Learning to negotiate salary and benefits requires research and practice. Know the market rate for your role and experience level. When discussing compensation, focus on your value delivery, not on your personal financial needs. Your employer doesn't care that you need money to pay rent. They care whether you deliver value worth paying for. Demonstrate that value, and then negotiate compensation that reflects it. A final aspect of professional confidence is knowing when to stay and when to leave. Many people remain in situations that undervalue them because they're afraid they can't do better elsewhere. This fear keeps them trapped. Confident professionals recognize when an organization or role no longer serves their growth and development. They're willing to seek better opportunities rather than clinging to security that comes at the cost of their potential. This doesn't mean job hopping constantly or quitting the moment something is difficult. It means having enough confidence in your abilities to believe you can succeed elsewhere if your current situation is genuinely limiting you. It means not accepting poor treatment or stagnation out of fear. You have agency. You can make changes. Recognizing and exercising that agency is itself a form of professional confidence. Chapter 7.
Confidence in relationships and personal life. Confidence isn't just about career and performance. It's also about how you navigate personal relationships, romantic partnerships, friendships, and the general conduct of your life. Many people compartmentalize, feeling confident at work but insecure in personal life, or vice versa. Holistic confidence means developing self-assurance across all life domains. Let's start with romantic confidence, an area of intense insecurity for many people. The fear of rejection, of not being attractive enough, of saying the wrong thing, keeps people stuck. They avoid dating, stay in unsatisfying relationships, or sabotage potentially good connections through anxiety and insecurity. First principle, your worth is not determined by whether someone wants to date you. Compatibility is specific. Even objectively attractive, interesting people get rejected regularly because chemistry is individual and unpredictable. Rejection in dating means incompatibility, not inadequacy. This reframe is essential. When you understand that rejection is a sorting mechanism, helping you find compatible partners rather than a judgment of your worth, it becomes much less threatening. Second principle, desperation is universally unattractive. When you need someone to validate you, when you're approaching dating from a place of insecurity and neediness, people sense it and it repels them. Confident dating comes from a place of wholeness. You're a complete person, interested in sharing life with another complete person, not desperately seeking someone to fill your internal emptiness. This means your foundational work is developing a life you're genuinely satisfied with, independent of romantic relationships. Pursue your interests, build friendships, develop your career, create meaning and enjoyment in your life. When you're genuinely content with your life as it is, adding a partner becomes enhancement rather than necessity. That energy shift is palpable and attractive. Third principle, authenticity beats performance. Many people approach dating trying to be what they think the other person wants, rather than showing who they actually are. This is exhausting and ultimately doesn't work. Even if you successfully attract someone by performing a false version of yourself, the relationship is built on deception. Eventually, your real self emerges, and if that's incompatible with what they thought they were getting, the relationship fails. Confident dating means presenting yourself authentically from the beginning. You show your genuine interests, opinions, and personality. Yes, this means some people won't be interested. That's the point. You're actively filtering for compatibility. The people who like the authentic you are the people worth building relationships with. Early dating should be low-pressure, getting-to-know-you experiences, not high-stakes auditions. Treat first dates as opportunities to see if you enjoy each other's company, not as performances where you must prove your worth. Go into dates curious about whether this person is someone you'd like to know better, not desperate to make them like you. This mindset shift makes dating much less anxiety-inducing. Let's talk about physical intimacy specifically, because this is an area of particular vulnerability and insecurity. Confidence around sex and physical intimacy comes partly from self-acceptance. Your body is your body. It has whatever characteristics it has. You can work on improving health and fitness, but ultimately you need to accept that your physical form is what it is. Confidence means being comfortable in your body as it exists right now, not after you lose 10 pounds or gain more muscle. It also comes from communication. People who are confident in intimate situations are those who can communicate clearly about their preferences, boundaries, and desires. They don't just go along with whatever. They actively participate in creating mutually satisfying experiences. This requires vulnerability, saying what you want and don't want, checking in with partners, being open to feedback. But this communication creates better experiences and deeper connection.
Confident people also understand that everyone is somewhat insecure about their bodies and intimate performance. Your partner is probably worried about similar things you're worried about. When you recognize that physical intimacy is a shared, vulnerable experience, not a performance you're being judged on, it becomes much easier to relax and actually enjoy it. Moving beyond romantic relationships, let's discuss friendship confidence. Many people struggle to form and maintain friendships, especially as adults when the natural social structures of school no longer exist. They feel lonely but don't know how to connect with people. Friendship requires initiative. You can't wait for friendships to happen to you. You have to actively create opportunities for connection. This means inviting people to do things, following up with acquaintances who seem interesting, and joining groups or activities where you'll regularly see the same people. Confident friendship initiation looks like, "Hey, I really enjoyed talking to you at the event last week. Would you want to grab coffee sometime?" This is clear, direct, and low pressure. The other person can easily say yes or no. If they say no or don't follow through, that's information. It doesn't mean you're unlikable. It means they're not available for friendship right now. Quality friendships require vulnerability. Surface-level acquaintances are fine, but deeper friendship requires actually sharing yourself, talking about things that matter to you, being honest about struggles, and not just presenting a perfect image. Many people prevent friendship depth by refusing to be vulnerable. They keep all conversations light and superficial. This protects against rejection, but also prevents real connection. Boundaries are also crucial in friendships. Confident people don't tolerate poor treatment from friends. If someone is consistently unreliable, disrespectful, or draining, they address it or end the friendship. They recognize that time and energy are finite and should be invested in relationships that are genuinely mutual and supportive. Let's talk about family relationships, which can be particularly complex. You don't choose your family, and family dynamics often involve long-standing patterns that are difficult to change. Confidence with family means recognizing that you're an adult with agency. You don't have to accept treatment or expectations that don't align with your values simply because they're coming from family. This might mean setting boundaries with parents who are intrusive or critical. It might mean limiting contact with family members who are toxic. It might mean respectfully declining to participate in family traditions or expectations that don't work for you. These decisions are often painful because they involve guilt and social pressure, but confident adults make decisions based on what's healthy for them, not just what's expected. At the same time, confidence allows for more generosity and understanding with family. When you're secure in yourself, you don't need your family to validate all your choices. You can accept that they have different views without feeling threatened. You can maintain relationships even with family you disagree with because you're not dependent on their approval. Life confidence also includes financial confidence, comfort with money management and financial decision-making. Many people avoid dealing with their finances because it's overwhelming or because they're ashamed of their financial situation. This avoidance creates more anxiety and prevents improvement. Financial confidence comes from facing reality clearly. Know how much money you have, how much you owe, what you're spending, and what your financial goals are. This doesn't require being wealthy. It requires being honest and informed about your actual financial situation. Once you know where you stand, you can make plans to improve. It also comes from developing basic financial literacy. Understanding concepts like budgeting, saving, investing, and debt management gives you agency over your financial life. You don't need to become a financial expert. You just need to understand the basics well enough to make informed decisions. Another component of life confidence is having opinions and preferences that you own without apology. Many people are so concerned with not offending anyone or fitting in that they never develop or express clear preferences. They always say, "I don't care," when asked what they want. They defer to others constantly. Confident people have opinions. They know what they like and don't like. They express preferences clearly while remaining open to compromise. They're not demanding or inflexible, but they also don't pretend to have no preferences just to be agreeable. Having and expressing preferences is a form of self-respect. It says your desires matter enough to be voiced.
Life confidence includes taking responsibility for your choices and circumstances. Yes, some things are outside your control. You can't control the family you were born into, certain aspects of your health, broad economic conditions, or what other people do. But within those constraints, you have significant agency. How you respond to circumstances, what meaning you make of events, what actions you take, these are your choices. Confident people embrace this responsibility. They don't blame their circumstances entirely on external factors. They recognize their role in creating their life and accept that they have power to change it. This is empowering rather than burdensome. When you accept responsibility, you accept power. Final point on life confidence. It requires accepting that you can't control everything and that perfection is impossible. Life includes difficulty, loss, failure, and uncertainty. Confident people don't fall apart when things don't go perfectly. They adapt, cope, and continue forward. They have resilience because they expect challenges and don't interpret difficulty as evidence that something's wrong with them. Building life confidence means actively creating a life that aligns with your values, developing skills that serve you across contexts, building relationships that support and challenge you, and taking responsibility for continuously improving your circumstances while accepting what you can't control. It's holistic work that touches every area of life.
Chapter 8. Maintaining confidence under pressure. Confidence isn't really tested when things are going well. It's tested when you're facing stress, criticism, failure, or uncertainty. Many people can feel confident in low-stakes situations but crumble when the pressure increases. Dangerous confidence means maintaining your self-assurance even when things are difficult. Let's start with handling criticism, which is inevitable if you're doing anything meaningful. Criticism triggers defensiveness in most people. When someone points out our errors or flaws, our instinct is to justify, deflect, or attack back. This defensiveness is a confidence problem. It reveals that we're so fragile that any negative feedback threatens our self-image. Confident people can receive criticism without falling apart because their self-worth isn't dependent on being perfect or always being right. They can separate valid criticism, which helps them improve, from invalid criticism, which they can disregard. Here's how to do this. When you receive criticism, pause before reacting. Your immediate emotional response is probably defensive. That's normal. Don't act on it immediately. Take a breath. Thank the person for the feedback. Then, later, when you're calmer, evaluate the criticism objectively. Ask yourself, is there truth here? Even if the delivery was poor or the criticism was harsh, is there a valid point buried in it? If yes, extract the useful information and use it to improve. If no, disregard it. Don't let invalid criticism burrow into your psyche. Someone's opinion of you, even if they state it confidently, is just an opinion. It doesn't become fact just because they said it. Confident people are discerning about which feedback to internalize and which to dismiss. The key is developing what psychologists call a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. Fixed mindset believes your abilities are static. Criticism feels like an attack on your fundamental identity. Growth mindset believes your abilities can be developed. Criticism becomes useful information about where to focus development. When you truly believe you can improve, criticism becomes helpful rather than threatening. Let's talk about handling failure specifically. Failure is information. It tells you what doesn't work so you can try something different. Every successful person has extensive failure in their history. The difference is they didn't let failure mean they were failures. They separated their identity from their results. When something doesn't work, confident people do postmortems. What happened? Why didn't it work? What was in my control versus outside my control? What would I do differently next time? This analytical approach extracts learning from failure, which means the failure wasn't wasted. It contributed to your growth. Pressure situations, high-stakes presentations, important interviews, critical conversations test your confidence intensely. Your heart races, your mind goes blank, your body floods with stress hormones.
This is normal physiology. The question is whether you can function effectively despite it. Confidence under pressure comes from three sources. First, preparation. The more prepared you are, the more confident you'll feel. When you know your material cold, when you've anticipated likely questions, when you've practiced the situation, you have a foundation of competence to draw on, even when nervous. Second, reframing pressure as excitement. Research shows that the physiological states of anxiety and excitement are nearly identical: racing heart, increased energy, heightened alertness. The difference is interpretation. When you tell yourself, "I'm anxious," you interpret the arousal as threat. When you tell yourself, "I'm excited," you interpret it as readiness. Simply saying out loud, "I'm excited," before high-pressure situations can shift your experience significantly. Third, exposure. The more you put yourself in pressure situations, the more your brain learns they're survivable. Each time you face pressure and survive, it recalibrates. Professional athletes, performers, and public speakers aren't less nervous than beginners. They've just trained themselves to perform despite nerves through repeated exposure. Uncertainty is another confidence test. When you don't know what's going to happen, when the path forward is unclear, when you can't control outcomes, anxiety naturally rises. Confident people are more comfortable with uncertainty because they trust their ability to handle whatever emerges. This trust comes from experience successfully navigating unpredictable situations. Every time you face something unexpected and figure it out, you build evidence that you're adaptable and resourceful. Over time, uncertainty shifts from threatening to just part of life. You don't need to know everything in advance because you know you can handle problems as they arise. Maintaining confidence also requires managing your mental state actively. Your thoughts create your emotional experience. If you constantly run negative internal commentary, "I'm going to fail," "everyone will judge me," "I'm not good enough," you'll feel anxious and incapable. If you run more neutral or supportive commentary, "I'm prepared," "I can handle this," "I'll do my best and learn from the results," you'll feel more confident. This isn't toxic positivity. You don't ignore real problems or pretend everything is perfect. You just don't catastrophize or run destructive mental scripts that undermine your performance. You maintain a realistic, constructive internal dialogue.
Physical stress management is also critical for maintaining confidence under pressure. When your body is constantly in fight or flight mode due to chronic stress, confidence is nearly impossible. You're operating from a depleted, reactive state. Regular stress reduction practices like exercise, meditation, adequate sleep, and downtime aren't luxuries, they're necessities for maintaining confidence over time. We've covered a lot of ground in this audiobook. Let's synthesize the key principles into a clear action plan for building dangerous confidence in your own life. First, understand that confidence is not a personality trait you're born with or without. It's a skill developed through specific actions and mental patterns. This is empowering because it means your current confidence level is not your permanent state. You can change it systematically. Second, confidence comes primarily from competence. You cannot sustain confidence without being genuinely good at things that matter to you. The foundation of your confidence-building work is developing real skills through deliberate practice. Choose areas that align with your values and goals. Commit to getting genuinely good at them. This takes time and effort, but there's no shortcut. Third, confidence requires accurate self-knowledge and self-acceptance. Know yourself honestly. Accept yourself compassionately. You don't need to be perfect or pretend you have no limitations. You need to be realistic about both your strengths and weaknesses and be okay with what you find. This honesty creates a stable foundation that doesn't crumble when tested. Fourth, your physical state affects your mental state. You cannot build sustainable confidence while neglecting your body. Sleep enough, move regularly, eat reasonably well, manage stress. These aren't optional, they're the physical foundation that supports psychological confidence. Fifth, social confidence comes from shifting focus from yourself to others. accepting social awkwardness as normal, and building social skills through practice and volume. You become socially confident by putting yourself in social situations repeatedly, even when uncomfortable, until your brain learns they're not actually threatening. Sixth, professional confidence requires demonstrating your value, managing up effectively, setting boundaries, building strategic relationships, and recovering well from setbacks. Your career confidence grows as you develop real competence, make that competence visible, and navigate organizational dynamics successfully. Seventh, life confidence comes from taking responsibility for your choices, aligning your actions with your values, building quality relationships, and accepting that you can't control everything. It's about creating a life you're genuinely satisfied with, rather than constantly seeking external validation. Eighth, maintaining confidence under pressure requires preparation, reframing stress as excitement, building resilience through exposure, managing your mental state actively, and practicing regular stress reduction. Confidence under pressure is trained, not innate. Now, here's your action plan. Don't try to do everything simultaneously. That's overwhelming and ineffective. Instead, choose one specific area to focus on first. Pick the area where improved confidence would have the biggest positive impact on your life. Maybe it's professional confidence because your career is stalling. Maybe it's social confidence because loneliness is affecting your well-being. Maybe it's fitness and physical confidence because your health is suffering. Once you've chosen your focus area, identify the specific competencies you need to develop. Be precise. If you're working on professional confidence, what exact skills do you need? If you're working on social confidence, what specific situations do you need to practice? Then create a practice plan. How will you develop these competencies? What does deliberate practice look like in this domain? Set a schedule. Make it realistic but consistent. Small amounts of regular practice build skills faster than occasional intensive bursts. Track your progress. Keep a journal or log documenting your practice and your experiences. This serves two purposes. It keeps you accountable, and it provides evidence of progress. When you look back and see how far you've come, that evidence builds confidence. Expect discomfort. Building confidence requires doing things you're not yet good at, putting yourself in situations where you might fail, and feeling uncertain. This discomfort is not a sign something's wrong, it's a sign you're growing. Confident people aren't comfortable all the time, they're comfortable with being uncomfortable. Celebrate progress, not just destination. Every small improvement matters. Every time you do something despite fear, you've won. Every time you handle a challenge better than you would have before, that's progress. Acknowledge these wins. They're evidence accumulating that you're becoming more capable. Get feedback. You can't improve in isolation. Seek input from people who are better than you at what you're trying to develop. Be coachable. Implement suggestions. Adjust based on results. This feedback loop accelerates development dramatically. Be patient with yourself. Confidence takes time to build because it rests on accumulated competence and experiences. You're not going to transform overnight. That's fine. You're playing the long game. Consistent effort over months and years create dramatic change. Also, recognize that confidence isn't linear. You'll have good days and bad days. You'll have periods of growth and periods of plateau. You'll experience setbacks. This is all normal. The trajectory over time is what matters, not day-to-day fluctuations. Dangerous confidence is called dangerous for a reason. When you become genuinely confident, you become a threat to everything that's been limiting you. Your fear loses its power to stop you. Your self-doubt loses its ability to paralyze you. Other people's negative opinions lose their ability to define you. You become someone who takes action despite uncertainty, who pursues meaningful goals despite potential failure, who lives according to your values despite social pressure.
This kind of confidence is dangerous to mediocrity. It's dangerous to settling. It's dangerous to living small. When you have it, you stop accepting less than you're capable of. You stop tolerating situations that don't serve you. You stop betraying yourself to meet others' expectations. You become someone who creates the life they want rather than accepting whatever life hands them. This is available to you, not someday in the distant future, starting now. Starting with whatever small action you can take today toward building the competence and mindset that create confidence. Maybe it's signing up for a class to develop a skill. Maybe it's having a difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe it's going to a social event despite anxiety. Maybe it's finally addressing a health issue you've been neglecting. Whatever it is, do it. Then do the next thing, then the next. Each action, each experience, each small win accumulates. Over time, you build a mountain of evidence that you're capable, that you can handle challenges, that you're worthy of taking up space in the world. That evidence becomes unshakable confidence. You are not stuck with the confidence level you currently have. You are not limited by your past experiences or your current circumstances. You have the ability to deliberately develop dangerous confidence through consistent action and practice. The question is not whether you can become confident. The question is whether you're willing to do the work required. I believe you are. The fact that you've listened to this entire audiobook shows you're serious about growth. You're willing to invest time in understanding and developing yourself. That's already evidence of the mindset that creates confidence. Now take that mindset and apply it through action. Start today. Choose your focus area. Identify your first specific action. Do it. Then keep going. 6 months from now, look back at who you were when you started. You'll barely recognize that person. That's the power of systematic confidence building. You have everything you need to become dangerously confident. The knowledge is here. The framework is clear. The only remaining ingredient is your decision to commit and follow through. Make that decision. Take that first action. Build momentum. Before you know it, you'll be looking at challenges that used to terrify you and thinking, I can handle that. That's when you know you've become dangerously confident. When obstacles that would have stopped you before are now just interesting problems to solve. When rejection that would have devastated you before is now just information. When uncertainty that would have paralyzed you before is now just part of the adventure. This is your birthright as a human being. Not to be confident because someone told you that you should be, but to be confident because you've earned it through accumulated confidence and experience. That's real confidence. That's dangerous confidence. That's what you're building. Go build it. The world needs more people who are dangerously confident, people who take risks, who create value, who refuse to accept limitations, who live fully and authentically. Be one of those people. You can. You will, starting now. Thank you for investing this time in yourself. Now go take action. Your confident future is waiting for you to create it.